What Lamate told you?
Hey gang, Uncle Todd and Sonny here, and this week we are looking at a film with two major people associated with it. First is the actor John Carradine, who we took a little look at in Astro Zombies, but this is one of his great performances. Now, he came to prominence in the late 30s, early 40s with appearances in John Ford's Stagecoach, where he played a gentlemanly gambler, and the adaptation of Grapes of Wrath, in which he played the traveling minister who becomes a union organizer. Great performances. This film we're looking at is actually one of his favorites. Now, Carradine had a bit of a problem. Well, he had two problems. One, he really wanted a Shakespearean stage troupe. So he took a lot of work to get money to fund that. And the films weren't always that great. His second problem, and more troubling, like Lugosi, he was a horrible money manager and just spent money left and right and was always broke. Again, necessitating constant need of work. And work he did. But I mean, he would appear in good films, but he also appeared in a lot of low budget films, and that's kind of how he became a horror star. Not all of them were good. I mean, at Universal, he got to be in Captive Wild Woman and The Invisible Man's Revenge. But he would also go over and do work at Monogram. Sometimes he'd get good roles, like in The Ape Man Returns. And then there was roles like his idiot servant in Voodoo Man. But I mean, he continued working in the 50s with The Unearthly, one of his last great mad scientist roles. Not last mad scientist roles, last great mad scientist roles. Film's a little iffy, but Carradine's outstanding in it. And he did some other great things. I mean, he was in Tarzan the Mighty, which was Gordon Scott's last Tarzan movie. And he also did TV appearances, such as in The Green Hornet, where he was the proprietor of a wax museum, of course. And then turns out, he's also a serial killer. Because, of course. One of my favorite of his later films is in the Night Strangler, where he plays the publisher of a newspaper. And has a great reaction when he gets some new evidence from an employee and he realizes he does not know who this man is, even though he's worked for the company for like 40 years. And of course, he had some later film work. He worked well up into the 1980s. He was in Joe Dante's Howling and Fred Olen Ray's The Tomb. So, he ran the gamut of roles. And the other important figure here is the director, Edgar G. Ulmer. Now, Ulmer was an immigrant. He had worked under, I believe, it was Fritz Lang. I'll check to make sure. And he came over here, and he got his big break at Universal. Now, one of the unsung heroes of the Universal Horrors is Carl Laemmle Jr. He was the man who wanted to make Dracula. His father didn't want to make Dracula. Who wants to see a film about some undead guy sucking blood out of people? But Jr. was adamant. Huge hit. He brought James Whale into fruition. Was one of his favorite directors. That's how we got Frankenstein, The Invisible Man. Well, okay, Frankenstein, Whale was given an option to choose any film he wanted because of his previous film being so great. So he chose Frankenstein. Good idea. One of the best horror directors of all time. And another director that Jr. liked was Ulmer. And he made The Black Cat, the first of the Karloff Lugosi pairings. It's a good film. It's a very intense film. Logic takes a bit of a dive in some areas, but other than that, amazing sets too that Ulmer helped to design. He'd been a set designer too. Unfortunately, he fell in love, and the person he fell in love with him. But she was the newly married wife of one of the Universal executives and a relative of Carl Laemmle, the owner. When she left her husband for Ulmer, that kind of killed Ulmer's career at Universal and just about any other major studios. So he went the Poverty Row route and became the genius of the low-budget film, working at PRC, the lowest of the low. And he made some outstanding films there. Most notably Detour, which is a film noir in which a man keeps accidentally killing people, the last one being an accidental strangulation with a telephone cord. You'd have to see the film to understand and believe it. But he also did Strange Illusion, which is a noir update on Hamlet. And after his time at PRC, he went on to do more low-budget work in like The Man from Planet X. He was a very inventive filmmaker. And he did this film, Bluebeard, not based on the actual story of Bluebeard about a man that killed wives, his own wives, to steal their fortunes, but more of a spiritual twin, as it were. We open in Paris with a unfortunate victim being hauled out of the Seine. She is the latest victim of a killer the police have dubbed Bluebeard because he's killing women. And most women are encouraged not to walk alone at night. We then cut to 3 seamstresses, 2 of whose names don't really matter, and 1 named Lucille. She'll become important. And they run into a tall, dark, handsome stranger.
Puppeteer.
Yes, it's Morel, the puppeteer. He puts on little shows, and he hasn't been doing too well lately. You know, the murders have caused people not to want to go out. But and this saddens the 3 ladies because they would love to see a new puppet show. And well, he's enchanted, especially with Lucille. And he invites them to a show tomorrow night. He'll put one on. And they all readily agree. And tomorrow night, he does a little bit of the opera Faust with puppets. Hey. No comments from the peanut gallery, please. It's not for everyone's taste, but hey, it's a hit with that crowd. After the show, Lucille wants to see his puppets, and he takes her backstage, which doesn't go well with the female puppeteer Renee. After that, they go for a little walk where Morel reveals that he used to be a painter, and then says something very strange.
Let's see.
Are you trying to decide how you'll paint me?
No. I'm not going to paint you.
Odd. I mean, he says he wants to make a puppet in her image, but then part of that involves doing sketches, and but he just doesn't want to paint her. Wonder why. Well, before anyone can go into that, Lucille gets called back to her friends, and he goes back to hand out the money that, all the performers need. Renee's not there. She left in a huff. Oh well. Morel goes home, and Renee is there, very upset. Seems they have an odd on-again, off-again relationship.
That girl? Who is she?
I don't know. Just a girl.
Another, I suppose, to take my job for a few days. A few weeks. And you think you'll come back to me again?
Oh, he's one of those kind. Likes to play around. Or maybe it's something a little more sinister. And Renee just rather thoughtlessly goes into.
I've known they didn't mean anything to you, really. Because you always came back to me. But Gaston, what's happened to them?
You think?
Yeah. He's Bluebeard. Being the star, you kind of figured. Well, he has a little secret passage he uses from his flat/studio and takes her down there and rolls her into the Seine, where her body is picked up. And then we are introduced to the detective in the story, Inspector Not Clouseau.
Renee slipped away before I knew she was gone.
You didn't by chance notice anyone in the crowd that struck you as unusual?
I'm sorry I can't give you any information that might help you.
We are grateful for your identification, and we will call on you if there's any further way you can help us.
I'm just going to call him the inspector because I can't remember his name. It's long, and he's the inspector. He can't really make much of Morel's story because, well, there's not much to it. But he's thinking he's going to have to use some specialty agent to look into these murders.
Reynald?
Yes?
Send for Francina Jiang. Rush her back to Paris at once.
But, Inspector...
At once.
We'll get into why he needs Francine's help later. Right now, Morel sends for Lucille. He wants her to design some new puppet clothes for him because he's going to do a ballet. And while discussing things, Lucille notices something that a bachelor wouldn't.
Give me that.
It's torn.
I meant to throw it away.
It's just lovely material.
It was my favorite.
It needs only a stitch or two.
Throw it away.
And suppose I promise not to ask any more questions.
You're very charming. Quite unlike any person I've painted before. I wonder.
Here we are. All fixed.
Yeah. We'll have to remember that. It could come up at another time. Anyway, after she leaves, taking some of the sketches with her to work on the clothes, He is next visited by Lamonte, his landlord and a art dealer, and he's a little upset with Morel.
The police have found the body of the last girl.
Well?
Why must you continue to throw them into the Seine for the police to find?
You know why.
That's the most frightening obsession of yours, Gaston.
So, he's in on it. But then it's his turn to get yelled at.
The Duke of Carradine. Don't tell me you've sold it to him.
Oh, he didn't give me any fancy price such as he's noted for. A mere 5,000 francs.
Fool, the Duke of Carradine always exhibits his collections. What if someone should recognize the girl?
So, Lamonte has Morel paint pictures, knowing full well he will kill the artist model afterwards, and then sells them to private collectors. Only this time he sold it to someone who displays them. Although he poo-poos Morel's worries, actually, the inspector does recognize the girl in the painting. And learning who the dealer was, goes to see him pretending to be a man of means.
Why all this interest in Albert Garon, may I ask?
Well, I'm interested in his work. Are you sure you couldn't contact him for me?
I wouldn't have the vaguest idea how to locate him.
Well, I'm sorry, Monsieur Lamotte. Afraid we can't do any business at the moment.
The inspector's slick, but Lamonte is just as. Oh, and as for that name, that's the name Lamont gave the Duke when he sold him the painting. Now we get to Francine, who just happens to be the younger sister of Lucille. And while she's changing, Morel picks that time to drop off a doll for Lucille to fit. And we get some interesting conversation.
Well, have him come in. I'll stay out of sight.
It's my little sister, Francine.
Oh.
I'm sorry she isn't presentable. I'd like you to meet her.
Tell him to come in and wait. I won't be long.
Won't you come in?
What's the matter? Was he afraid to... Good evening.
Pretty amusing, but it will be important later. Francine then goes to the Sûreté to talk to the inspector, who also would like the relationship to be more than just professional, much to Lucille's annoyance. I think she should marry someone a little less whatever it is he is. Anyway, after some more comedy with witnesses at the inquest, Francine comes up with an idea.
Cardignan writes, you want a portrait of your daughter and asks me to help you find a satisfactory painter.
Being strangers here, we naturally look to the Duke, who is a relative, for recommendations regarding a number of things.
My trousseau, Chief.
Not a bad plan. She and the other detective, pretending to be father and daughter, who are very rich and will be leaving soon to go to South America for whatever it is he does, and they would like the portrait quickly and would take it with them. Well, after discussing the fact that they really liked that background on the painting the Duke had and would like something like that, does he know the painter? Can he get in touch with him? And, well, Lamonte is a little reluctant until the matter of money comes up.
For a commission of 75,000 francs, you could advertise?
Advertise. $150,000 might make an attractive figure.
Agreed.
Good bargainer. And we also see another side of his true character when he goes to propose this offer to Morel.
But I'll make you a proposition. 25,000 francs, if you will do.
25,000?
I might even get you 30.
Oh, that would give me a magnificent puppet show.
Why, that sneaky little thief. Getting 150 francs and only giving him 30. He's worse than Colonel Tom Parker was about Elvis's money. Anyway, Moreau is intrigued until he finds out what the job is. Then he is adamant. No, he will not do it. Lamonte knows what happens to the models. But he assures him, look, you do this quick, they take the painting, they hit South America, nobody will ever see him. Easy peasy. And he'll have 30,000 francs. Well, after some badgering, Morel agrees, but he has a stipulation of his own.
The workroom over your shop. That's all right to paint a portrait in.
Why? Yes. So it is.
I paint her there or I don't paint her.
All right. All right, Gaston. You paint her there.
Move. So, the police set up their sting, and unfortunately for them, Morel, he has another trick up his sleeve.
The painter has requested that he be permitted to work unobserved. He finds it more satisfactory that way.
Well, that's going to be a bit of a problem, isn't it? Meanwhile, downstairs, the father is getting kind of nervous, which is causing Lamonte's radar to go off. Something's not right here. He goes to listen upstairs on the house speaking tube. Meanwhile, in the portrait, the model keeps having trouble getting a position, so Morel reluctantly comes out from behind the curtain to pose her.
What's the matter?
Lucille's puppeteer.
Lucille.
So you're Bluebeard.
Uh-oh. We know what that means. Yeah. Cravat comes off and is garroted. All this is heard by Lamonte, who then rushes back to the father, finding him signaling the police. And, well, that's something else he's got to take care of now. Gathering what he can in the few moments he has, he decides he's going to book it and leave Morel to take the rap. Morel has other ideas. But Lamonte isn't so easy to strangle. Well, the police finally break in, or should I say the Sûreté. But they're too late. Morel has taken a page out of the Phantom of the Opera's book. Sadly, the police find both Lamonte and Francine dead, but the other detective, though badly battered, is still alive, but he can tell them nothing. Later, at Francine's funeral, while the inspector is consoling Lucille, he mentions the cravat that was found at the scene of the crime.
But I've been all over town, making the rounds at the shops and nothing.
A cravat?
Yes, this one.
Zoinks indeed. And for some reason, she doesn't just blurt out what she knows to the inspector. She does something that's rather, well...
stupid.
Yeah, that. She goes to see Morel, to confront him, to learn the truth.
Where's the cravat?
Which?
The one I mended for you.
Oh, that. You must know I threw it away.
Oh, I wish I could believe you.
Then she hits him with the one question he's never wanted to answer.
So I don't want to paint anymore?
But that merely meant you wouldn't paint me. Why was that?
Well, after some inner turmoil, Morel finally decides to tell her the whole story. When he was younger, he was a starving artist, as so many are. And one day, he came upon this poor woman lying unconscious in the street. So he carried her back to his place. And though he was totally broke, he found a way to get her food and to nurse her back to health. And while she was there on his bed, he painted her. He fell in love with her and painted her. She was an angel. When she was better, she left without a word. And, as luck would have it, for once, one of his paintings, this painting of her, was a smash hit. He was going to be honored by the, whatever the Academy of Art is there. And he did some searching and finally learned where she lived and got an incredible shock when he found out what she really was. A low woman.
She offered me money. I suppose she thought she could repay me with money. Suddenly the sight of that Jeanette did something to me. Something indescribably infuriating.
Why is he so judgmental? Everybody's got to earn a living. I'm paying you back money. That's not bad. Idealist. Now we get into the psychological part of this confession. You know, the murders.
Every time I painted again, I painted Jeanette. So I turned to making puppets because I could make them of wood. Because when they became Jeanette, I could take out my fury on them. I couldn't kill wood. Hey, I owed Lamartine a lot of money. And only he knew that I'd killed Jeanette. So I had to paint for Lamartine. He wanted pictures of girls he could sell. But again, every girl I painted turned out to be Jeanette. Every time I painted her, I had to kill her again. Finally, life came to mean nothing to me, not even my own.
Pretty heady stuff. And then we come to his fascination with Lucille, who really is the good person he thought Jeanette was.
I knew I couldn't undo the wrongs I'd done, but I could prevent further ones. That's why I definitely quit painting once and for all. I decided there must be no more killings for your sake. That's why I couldn't paint you.
That's all well and good, but there's just one problem Lucille has with his confession.
Why, Francine?
Francine, I didn't want to kill her.
Oh, well, all's forgiven, I guess. Turns out he just doesn't really think they can have a future, which he really wants.
I would let you turn against me too. Oh, no, not you, Lucille. Not you.
Okay, he's a little too far gone. But before Lucille can be strangled, the police break in. They just happen to be there, I guess. And Morel puts up quite a struggle. Well, Morel gives the police a pretty good chase across the rooftops we get this little bit of insight into how good the inspector really is.
How did you get here?
I followed you. I saw when you looked at that cravat that you had some idea.
The clever one. Smug, too. What do you think the odds are they're going to end up together? Well, it is Hollywood. Well, Moreau gives a pretty good chase, but unfortunately, his luck has finally run out. What an ending! Okay, I admit, this is a bit of a slow film. A lot of melodrama, but it is easy to see why Carradine loved this part. The film might not have been the best, although you can see some of Ulmer's usual camera aesthetics throughout. But I mean, it's that character and that monologue he gets to give about poor Jeannette. This is probably one of Carradine's greatest performances, and he's given some good ones. Again, the aforementioned Grapes of Wrath and Stagecoach, and Tarzan the Mighty, pretty good in that too. Anyway, I mean, he runs the gamut here. He's charming and suave and tormented and uncontrollable and psychotic. You know, he just doesn't seem to be able to control himself, and he really would like to, but he's got too many issues. And his partner, what a sleazy guy, just all about the money, and he gets a great comeuppance that he helped give himself. You know, that whole hoisted on your own petard concept. The actors are all pretty good, as is the hero, but really, this is Carradine all the way. And he is a marvel. And it's why this has probably become one of his most popular of his low-budget work. You know, aside from the work he did in Universal and others. This is, for me, his best film. Maybe a low budget with cardboard sets, but wow, it is at a time when both B-movie horrors were rather juvenile. This is a very adult take on a concept, and there's some really good humor, such as when we have all the testimony from the artist models, especially one who keeps wanting to brag about the people she's posed for, like Monet. But yeah, a little short on action, and there's a lot more romance and psychological melodrama going on, as opposed to what you would see over at Universal or Columbia at the time, where they were more about monsters. But this does pave the way to future films, you know, like Psycho, The Hitchhiker, where these psychologically damaged men who can sometimes, and women, if you've ever seen Straight Jacket by William Castle, these very sympathetic but monstrous people. And Carradine got there first. Well, please hit like, share, and subscribe, and stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
Surely it can't be so difficult for you to be yourself.